What's up, people? Welcome back to Grounding in Grace. You know what time it is. This is where we keep it real, keep it biblical, and keep it fun. So whether you're here for a deep conversation, a little bit of laughter, or figuring out how to navigate life with Jesus, you're in the right place. So today's topic, man, it's gonna be so juicy. We're breaking it down biblical style, but with a little spice, because let's be real. Life and faith are meant to be lived, not just studied. Am I correct? So go on. What are you waiting for? Go grab your coffee or drink, snacks, whatever. Get comfy and let's dive right in. So listen, being a Christian is hard enough without having to deal with difficult people like the one-uppers, the know-it-alls, and the energy drainers, right? Not everyone is easy to love. Some people only care about themselves, and yes, even some of the Christian ones. It makes you wonder, how do I keep being a light in a world that feels so selfish? So let's talk about it. How do we love people, set boundaries, and still be true to ourselves? I mean, without losing our sanity, that is. I'm breaking this up into 3 parts. Part 1, why are people like this and how do I not let it get to me? Part 2, how to set boundaries without feeling guilty. And part 3, being a Christian in a selfish world without losing yourself. But before we begin, I would like to dedicate this to a new friend of mine who helped remind me of these things that we're talking about today. She stepped in when I myself was feeling defeated from certain people. But thanks to her, that's why we have this segment today. She inspired me to help others going through what I myself went through. Thank you so much, Angelica. You know who you are. All right, now let's start. All right, y'all, so let's talk about it. Why are people like this? You know exactly who I'm talking about. The one-uppers who turn every conversation or task into a competition without giving you the heads up that you're in one. But obviously you know that you're in one. The know-it-alls who know more than Google or have to correct you and turn everything into some big old lesson so they can feel smart, I guess. I don't know. And the energy drainers who take and take and take but never pour back into you. You just can't seem to fully relax around them. Am I right? How about the people who only care about themselves? Or the Christians who are out there trying to out-holy everyone to get as much praise from everyone as possible to feel more important. It's exhausting. You're out here trying to be a good Christian, trying to live in grace, and trying to be a better person in God's eyes. But some folks make it real difficult, don't they? So what do? How do we navigate a world that feels so selfish without turning into a bitter, frustrated person ourselves? That's what we're breaking down today. In each section, I will have pointers for you to take note of. So, pointer number 1, we need to admit it. Some people are just a lot. In 2 Timothy 3, verse 1-2, it says, "But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, etc." The Bible called it. God already told us selfish people are nothing new. Social media just made it more obvious. You know, that person who only talks about themselves, that friend who always calls you when they need something, that coworker who corrects everything you say just to feel smart. Yeah, the Bible warned us about them. But here's the real kicker. We don't get to control them. We only get to control how we respond. And believe me, I know it's tough. How about we just continue and find out together how to handle these people with God's help, of course. Pointer number 2, don't let someone else's behavior steal your peace. Unfortunately, this is exactly what I let happen to me. In John 14:27, it says, and bear with me, okay? Because every time I read this verse, it's kind of like a tongue twister to me. But here it goes. "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." I know that was a lot, but let's make more sense of this verse, shall we? If Jesus gave me peace, why am I out here letting some random person take it from me? Think about it. That one-upper, it's not your problem.
Nope.
That know-it-all, not your responsibility. And that selfish person, not your burden to carry.
I don't think so.
I mean, the moment you let their actions mess with your mood, you are literally handing them your peace on a silver platter. So the first step in dealing with difficult people, protect your peace like it's your last French fry. Because once it falls in that crack of your car, that's it. It's really hard to get back. Number 3, some people will never change, and that's okay. Romans 12:18 says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So let's be real. Not everyone wants to change, right? Some people love being difficult. They feed off the drama, the competition, and the control. Or some of them might not even realize what they're doing. And that's why the key phrase in that verse is as far as it depends on you. Because you could try to be kind, but if they still act rude, that's on them. You can forgive them, but if they keep repeating that same behavior, that's between them and God now. You can pray for them, but you can't fix them. That's exactly what I do now. When someone is beginning to get the best of me, I begin to pray blessings over them first, and then ask God to please open their eyes and their hearts to how they might be making some people feel around them. But you need to stop making it your mission to help people who don't even want to help themselves or don't want to open their eyes to how they might be affecting those around them. Okay, let's move on to number 4. Loving people does not mean letting them drain you. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. God calls us to love people, but he never said let people walk all over you. There is a difference. For instance, being kind versus being a doormat, okay? Being patient versus being taken advantage of, or being loving versus being emotionally drained, right? You can love someone and still set boundaries. You can be a good Christian and still say, hey, I don't have space for this energy in my life. And this is where boundaries come in. And guess what? Jesus set boundaries too. Number 5, even Jesus knew when to walk away. Luke 5:16 says, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Matthew 10:14 says, if anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or that town and shake the dust off your feet. Hold up. So Jesus himself took breaks from people? Yeah. He withdrew to be alone. He knew when people weren't ready to listen, and he didn't chase after those who rejected him. So why do we feel guilty for stepping back when we need to? If Jesus knew when to walk away, why do we think we have to stay in toxic situations? Number 6, the goal is to love without losing yourself. In 1 Corinthians 16, verse 14, it says, do everything in love. It's literally that simple. Do everything in love. So let's summarize part 1. We can't change people, but we can change how we respond. Protect your peace. Stop trying to fix people who don't want to change. Set boundaries like Jesus did, and love people, but don't lose yourself in the process, okay? Because at the end of the day, our relationship with God matters more than what difficult people might think of you. Now, let's move on to part number 2. All right, fam. So we talked about the one-uppers, the know-it-alls, and the energy drainers. We saw how Jesus himself set boundaries. He loved people, but he didn't let them walk all over him. And we learned that our peace is our responsibility.
But let's be real.
Even when we know all of that, setting boundaries can be kind of hard. Some of us feel guilty for saying no. Some of us feel like if we don't show up for everyone all the time, we're being, selfish. But today, we are breaking that chain and that mindset, because the truth is, boundaries are biblical.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to talk about how to set them the right way without feeling guilty. Okay, so let's recap on the verse from earlier. Proverb 4:23. It said, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Some of us were taught that being a good Christian means saying yes to everything. At one point, I even thought that. Always being available and never letting anyone down. But let me ask you, if your heart is completely drained, how are you supposed to pour into others? Answer these for me. Okay, here's some scenarios. If someone called you at 2 a.m. in the morning for a ride, but you had to go to work early the next morning or that morning, would you go? If someone consistently unloads their problems on you, but never asks how you're doing, is that love? Another one. If someone crosses the line again and again, but you never say anything, is that healthy? Jesus never said love your neighbors, even if it destroys you in the process, okay? Pointer number 2. Even Jesus had boundaries, so why can't we? Mark 1, verse 35, it says, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, went off to a solitary place where he prayed. And let's not forget Matthew 10:14 again. It says, if anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake what? The dust off your feet. I'm repeating some of these because it's really important to understand. Jesus loved people, but he also took time away to pray because even Jesus needed time to recharge. Didn't force people to listen. He literally told his disciples, if they won't listen, shake the dust off your feet and move on. And he didn't chase after people who rejected him either. So why do we feel guilty for stepping back when we need to? If Jesus knew when to walk away, why do we think we have to stay in this toxic situation? We don't. Pointer number 3, know what you're responsible for and for what you're not. In Galatians 6:2 and 6:5, it says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. For each one should carry their own loads? Wait a moment. Paul just said carry each other's burdens, but then turns around and says each person should carry their own load? What's the difference, right? Well, let me tell you. Burdens are the heavy things that people can't carry alone, right? Like grief, serious crisis, illnesses. Loads are everyday responsibilities that people should be handling themselves. For instance, their choices, their actions, their maturity. Here are some examples before we move on to the next pointer. Okay, let's see. Healthy love. Encouraging a friend who lost their job, right? Unhealthy love, paying all their bills when they refuse to work themselves. Okay, here's another one. Let's see, this is fun. Healthy love, being a shoulder to cry on when a friend is hurting. Unhealthy love, letting someone emotionally drain you every day without boundaries. Okay, pointer number 4. So what should you say without feeling mean? Well, step into my class called
Setting Boundaries 101. 101.
Okay, that wasn't funny. It's just I don't know if I can do the whole echo thing on the editing, so let's just move on, shall we? In Ephesians 4:15, it says, speak the truth in love. All right, so we know we need boundaries, but how do we actually say it without coming off rude or mean? I have 4 examples of situations with a response that might help you out, okay? So listen carefully. Situation number 1, for the one-uppers who always has to do it better, you can say something like, hey, I love sharing things with you, but I feel like every time I do, it turns into a competition. I just want to celebrate with you without comparing. That's good, right? Situation number 2. Did I say 4? I said 4. Okay, I'll give it to you. Let's see. This can be to the know-it-alls. You can say to them, I appreciate your perspective, but sometimes I just need to share without feeling like I'm in a debate. That was actually pretty good. Okay, situation number 3. We can give this one to the energy drainers, right? Tell them, I love being here for you, but I also need some space to take care of myself. I can't always be available 24/7. Okay? And what else? Oh yeah, let's not forget the chronic complainers. You can say, I care about you, but I also need conversations that build me up. Can we talk about something positive too? Those are pretty good, right? But did you notice something? Boundaries don't have to be rude. Believe me, this is something I had to learn too. It's hard to bite your tongue sometimes, but you can still love people and set limits at the same time in a gracious way. Okay, let's move on to pointer number 5. Some people won't like your boundaries, but that's okay. I want you to listen to this following scripture very carefully. I want to know your thoughts, okay? Luke 6:26 says, "Woe to you when everyone speaks well of you." Okay, now do me a solid and tell me what you think this is saying to you. I really want to know what your opinion is. Not everybody are going to like your boundaries. Some people will call you selfish for not doing everything for them, or get mad at you when they can't drain you like they used to, or try to guilt trip you into doing what they want. But guess what? Your peace is more important than someone else's opinion of you. The right people will respect your boundaries. The wrong people will guilt trip you. And that tells you everything you need to know. And the last pointer for this section is pointer number 6. Love people without letting them control you. 1 Corinthians 16, verse 14, it says, "Do everything in love." Wait a moment. Period. That's it for pointer number 6. We don't have to overcomplicate everything, do we? All right, so how about we just sum this up and move on? Boundaries are biblical, okay? Even Jesus set them. You are not responsible for fixing everyone. Saying no is not selfish, it's wise. And people who love you will respect you and your limits. Jesus called us to love people, not to be controlled by them. You can be kind, you can be loving, and you can still say no when needed, okay? And finally, we made it to part 3, being a Christian in a selfish world without losing yourself. You're doing great, just a little more to go, okay? So in part 1, we talked about how people can be draining, competitive, or straight up selfish, and how we can't let that mess with our peace. In part 2, we got real about setting boundaries like Jesus did, without feeling guilty about it. And now in part 3, we're tackling the big questions, or some of the big questions. So there's what was the question? Oh yeah, how do I live for Christ in a world where everyone seems to only care about themselves? How do I love people without getting caught up in their drama, negativity, or selfishness? And how do I be different without feeling drained? I know that last question is a little weird, but just bear with me. Following Jesus is very hard when the world keeps pulling you into pettiness and competition and stress. So just keep on listening. I got some really good pointers for you coming up, okay? Pointer number 1, you are called to be different, so stop trying to fit in. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Ooh, wait a second. You know, I read this the other day, and it just hits different. I think that verse might become my journey verse, because every time I read it, it just does something to me. Yeah. Anyways, listen, this world runs on selfishness, okay? The world tells you, look out for yourself first, or do whatever makes you happy, or if someone disrespects you, cut them off and seek revenge. But Jesus called us to do something totally different, right? Mark 10:45 says, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve." Jesus flipped the whole system upside down. He didn't just live for himself. He served, he gave, and he sacrificed. And now as Christians, we're called to do the same. But here's the real question. How do we serve, love, and be different without letting people take advantage of us, right? Pointer number 2. Be selfless, but don't be a doormat. I don't know why I keep doing this when I say doormat. I guess people stepping all over your face? I don't know. Matthew 5:16 says, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." So, as Christians, we're supposed to stand out, but some of us confuse being kind with being passive. We think, if I say no, I'm not being a good Christian, being Christ-like. But let's be real, Jesus was kind, but he was not weak, okay? In John 2, verse 15, it says, "So he made a whip out of cords and drove all of them from the temple courts." Wait, did I say that right? Yeah, from the temple courts. Jesus literally flipped tables when people were disrespecting the house of God. He didn't stay quiet when something needed to be addressed, right? Being selfless doesn't mean being silent when people cross the line. You can be loving and firm at the same time. Okay, pointer number 3. Choose love even when others choose selfishness. I know. Just bear with me again. In 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4 through 5, it says, "Love is patient, love is kind, it is not self-seeking." Okay? Let's be honest, loving people is easy when they're nice to you. But what about the one-uppers, the know-it-alls, the blah, 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 all them people? That's where the real test comes in. Luke 6:32-33 says, "If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love who love them." I said that right too. Today, my speech is just all over the place. But you get what I'm saying. Jesus basically said, anybody can love people who treat them well. That's easy. But can you love the ones who don't? How about this? Are you able to show kindness even when someone is being rude to you? Can you pray for someone even when they're frustrating you? Can you respond with patience instead of snapping back? Patience. That's a tough one for me. I'm working on it. From experience, these can all be hard at the beginning, okay? Actually, let me be really honest. It's still sometimes hard for me today, but that's where the real growth happens, okay? Pointer number 4, know when to step away, because Jesus did too. Luke 5:16 says, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." Listen, Jesus loved people, but he didn't let them drain him. Even though he healed people, taught crowds, and had followers everywhere, he knew when to step back. You are not responsible for fixing everyone. You are not called to carry people who refuse to grow, and you can still love people and still walk away from toxic situations. I don't know why I keep messing up that word. If you clicked on this video because you have issues with some people in your life, this must be your sign from God to you. This is him saying, let your burdens go and give them to me. That's what he said, okay? And we're down to the final pointer. Pointer number 5. Be the light, but don't expect everyone to appreciate it. That's a big one. John 3:19 says, "Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil." Listen, not everyone will appreciate your kindness. Some people will misunderstand your heart. Some people will think you're being fake or weak just because you're trying to be different. But guess what? That's not your problem. In Matthew 5, verse 11, it says, "Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me." Some people won't understand your kindness. Some people will test your patience. Some people will be making fun of you for trying to be different. But at the end of the day, we're not living for their approval. We're living for God's approval. Okay, so the final takeaway from all this? Just be kind. Yeah, no, seriously, just be kind. Set some boundaries and stay true to you. Okay? You ready to wrap this whole thing up? Remember, you are called to be different, so stop trying to fit in. You can love people without letting them walk all over you. You can choose kindness even when others are selfish. You can step away when needed because even Jesus did. And most of all, your worth is not based on what people think of you, but on who God says you are. I want to leave you with one last scripture before we go. Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for the proper time will reap a harvest if we do not give up. That's a beautiful way to end, right? All right, y'all. Not to scare you or nothing. That's it for this episode. Look, let me know in the comments which part of this lesson hit home for you and if you encountered any of these type of people, or tell me if I missed anything, okay? And if this blessed you, go ahead, hit that like button to prove it, okay? Also, be kind and share this with someone who you think might need it. And yo, don't forget to subscribe so we can keep growing together, okay? I can't do this alone. I need you along my side with me, okay? Promise? All right, see you on the next one. Oh, and hey, welcome to Grounding in Grace. You're still here. Are you debating whether to click on this video? It's a goodie. I don't know, don't miss out. I would click on it. Go ahead, click on it. You know you want to. No, seriously, click on it. What are you waiting for? Go. All right, fine. Bye.